Hey, I wanted to talk about the relationship that I had with Sue. Um, I haven't seen Sue for quite a while. The first time I met Sue was after I had a mediator. She had to go and open up some court records because I was given up for adoption. I shared a video with both Sue and my mother in it. Um, Before this lady was able to find Sue, about 6 months prior to her actually finding Sue, it had taken her 2 years to figure out what happened. But how the lady found Sue was strange. The lady was working on my case and she couldn't find an address, she couldn't find a last name, and she wanted to get to the driver's license bureau before it shut down that day. And she was pretty close at finding the information, but she couldn't find the last name. And she said one of her kids was, misbehaving, and she got up and yelled at the kid and slammed a piece of paper down on her desk. And she said, "I'll be damned." On the back of that piece of paper was a name. So I was able to track the address. About 3 days after that, I got another phone call from her, and she didn't make it to the driver's license bureau earlier in the week because she was in a very bad car accident and her spinal cord was broken. So she wasn't going to be able to work on my case for about 6 months after that. And I told her that that was fine, and I hoped that she was okay. But that kind of was an omen, and I didn't recognize it. I was only 23. I was very young and very naive. And I didn't really have a good idea about a lot in the world outside of the little world I was living in. I did locate Sue. I did meet her. And it was strange to have that meeting. I could tell that there was a lot of secrets, and those secrets were not going to get told to me that day. She didn't give me very much information. She just told me what had happened, that she had gotten pregnant. Her sister Marjorie got pregnant. They both got pregnant in the same year. Sue did leave out a snippet of information, and I found out a piece of information about that from a woman who went to school with Sue and Marjorie. And in that year that Sue got pregnant, her and the guy, I don't know what happened, but Sue said that his family had basically treated her badly as a result, that she wasn't, I don't know. I don't know, because her father was a politician, so I don't know if it was about that or what it was about. But I guess she rejected the father. That's what she told me. And the lady that I had met that went to school with Sue told me that she did know about me, but that the father of me had gotten another girl in the same school pregnant in the same year, and I guess she gave birth to twins. That's what I heard. And that's what Sue said too. She didn't tell me about him getting somebody else in that school pregnant that year, though. She didn't tell me about that. It was just that his family had looked down on her for something. After I had met her, me and her talked on the phone a few times. I met her in 1992, and there was a few things that had occurred there. I told her, some things about my childhood that had happened to me. Like, one of the bigger things that happened in my childhood was that I was raped when I was 5 years old. And I was hospitalized, and I was raped by the man that my mother, Alice, was married to, Max. And I had to go to the hospital over that. I don't have any memory of it. It was such a traumatic experience that I don't remember the experience. And even though my brother did witness it, the court refused to charge Max with any crimes because I didn't name him in this. And they didn't understand about trauma and memory loss at that time. This was in the early 70s. So I had told Sue about that, and I don't know what happened, if she misunderstood what I said. But the next thing I know, Sue came up there and wanted me and Chrissy to go to Penrose Hospital, which we did because she thought that maybe Chris was doing something to my daughter, and he wasn't, and I know that. But nonetheless, we went, and the doctor examined my daughter, and nothing was wrong with her. She was fine. But the doctor, after meeting with Sue and examining my daughter, he pulled me aside in the back of the hospital, and he told me to be very careful around Sue, that there was, like every fiber of this doctor's being was going, do not go around this person, don't do it. And I was just really shocked that a doctor would do that. I mean, it stands out in your mind when it happens to you. Whatever that doctor experienced with her, and he talked to her for a few, I don't know. He didn't have a good impression. So, after that, I started getting social services coming to my home a lot during a year in 1996, 97. They just kept coming, and I mean, they were told all kinds of things that I was doing to my kids, and social services would have to write down when they got to my house, oh, she was baking a cake for her child's birthday. She was reading a book to them, too. So they didn't have a lot of abuse or neglect or any of that to report, because I did take good care of my kids. I really did. I went to work. I did what I was supposed to do for them. Meanwhile, the lady next door, Jennifer Dunn, she had a little girl. She had 2 little girls, too, that used to play at my house. But the 9 times that social services came by my house in that year, they didn't stop by Jennifer's house, not once, even though she had an ex-husband that was screaming like a banshee at her every Sunday morning. He was drunk, and he owned Bob's liquor store. And eventually what happened that year was that her youngest daughter was murdered, and social services kept coming to my house that year. Somebody was calling and making false allegations. It was really bad. It was to the point where they were pulling my kids out of school, had them out in the school hallway, questioning them about sexual things that they did not know anything about because they were too young. I mean, it got pretty crazy. So, I didn't figure out that it was Sue at the time or them yet. But Sue left town with her new husband, and they were going across the country. He worked for a trucking company. It was the one that was like the orange pumpkin truck. I can't remember the name of it, but Sue wanted to go on a trip with him, and she did go. It was the first time that she had left, Melissa, Lita, and Reno at home basically on their own. They were old enough, but right before Sue went on that trip, I was talking with Melissa, and I was trying to get Melissa, because I knew there was something going on in the family that I didn't know about, and they were all keeping it a secret. And I kind of, I felt that Melissa was the most approachable one in asking about, family secrets, or did she know anything, about my father, or what's the deal with Sue, But Melissa was not going to give away any information, and she did not. But she was talking to me. And mind you, this is a family of shapeshifters. They can get in your dreams. They can do things to find out information from you when you don't know that that's what they're doing. Well, just because Melissa had talked to me, I feel like Melissa had taken some, after Sue left, she'd taken some LSD with her boyfriend, and they went and got onto a crotch rocket and got it brand new off the showroom floor. And Melissa had an accident that day, and it did some severe damage to her brain. And I think after that particular accident, when she got out of the hospital, I brought her to my house because she couldn't do a lot of things at first, but she did get better quick. But she would never tell me, but I could tell that she wanted to, but she knew better after that accident. She knew exactly what happened, which I really didn't, but I felt like somehow it was connected to me questioning her. And she had, maybe pushed the envelope a little too far in talking to me. But there's no proof of this. There isn't. And I don't want to falsely accuse anyone of anything. I don't believe in coincidences, though. I believe that everything happens for a reason. Melissa ended up moving out of my apartment and in with a friend of hers. And I didn't really hang out with them for a while, a couple years, I guess. I was dating someone, and he had a couple of friends, and I dated them too later on. It was dating, and that's about all it was, because we were all pretty young, and we all ran in the same crowd. Well, one of the guys that I was dating, he dated my half-sister Lita, and that was pretty upsetting to me. And I did get upset at the guy that dated her, and I told him he shouldn't date her. I didn't want to tell him why at the time, because I wasn't 1000% sure, and when you don't have proof and evidence, you don't want to falsely accuse someone. But I do know for a fact that Lita is a witch, so that's why I didn't want him dating her, but he did. And that left a pretty nasty mark on him, because she probably put spells and so on and so forth on him at that point. I did not know, and I did not have any memories of a past lifetime with Sue and Lita, but I can tell you that when Sue talked about the father, she was pretty angry. When she looked at me and saw the father in me, she was very angry. So that's why I was kind of asking Melissa questions, but she really wouldn't give them away. And I can understand why. I had some other experiences with Sue throughout time and Lita, and I started just moving around quite a bit. I think over a period of 5 years, I may have moved somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 different times just to get away from it, because I didn't want to deal with it. My mom passed away, and that was not a good time at all for me. I had an experience with Lita, and I've described this experience before, but she didn't do anything right. I couldn't hang out with her, and I ended up having to literally escape from her that night because of what she was doing. It wasn't kind. It wasn't the way to treat your half-sister when her mother passes away, which it was my mom, Alice, that had passed away. After that, I moved, and I ended up becoming homeless. And I did stay at Sue's home for about 3 weeks with an ex-boyfriend, Brian. And Brian didn't like it there. And I will say I really didn't care for it because it felt weird. It did. And I was cooking dinner for Sue one night and Terry. And Lita was there, and she called me a slave, and it was really harsh. But I knew exactly what she meant in the moment. I hurried up and got my shit and got the fuck out of there. I went to a hotel room from there where Brian was. He was a pretty abusive emotionally and physically. And I got away from him too, eventually. But the next experience that I had with Sue was that they wanted to get together for a family get together. And we did, and Sue refused to eat with us. She would never sit for like Thanksgiving or any of that with us and eat with us. It was strange. This particular event or dinner, I don't remember what Lita and Sue were talking about, but I remember my niece was running around with a book about demons. And I remember hearing Lita said, "You better fucking stop. You better not, or I'll drop a house on that ass." And I remember watching Sue, her whole face just drop down to the ground like, she will drop a house on my ass. There was just something about that that didn't set well with me. And my niece was Lita's daughter, who Sue had adopted, and Sue is now, instead of the grandmother, the mother to Lita's daughter, which was also strange. And Lita had these kids, but she kept giving them to the fathers, the grandparents, or whoever would take them. I did try to help her out with Ashley, but Sue wanted Ashley pretty darn bad and got Ashley. And that's fine. I had 2 kids to raise as it was. And there again, after these incidences, I wouldn't see or hear from them for 3, 4, 5 years. At one point, though, there was a funeral for one of Sue's family members in Denver, and they came and got me and took me to the funeral. That was unpleasant too. Sue did put a spell on me. She had me in a church yard, and she was saying something in my ear in Latin. I have no idea what in the heck it was, but I do know it was probably a very bad spell. About 3 months later, Lita and her husband Rob turned up at my house, and they wanted to buy some pot for my daughter. It's legal here in Colorado, and she sold it to them for just about that day. After that, they came over and wanted to bum it all the time. Like, wow. But Lita was just hanging around because she was waiting for something. She had been spying, psychic spying, and she found out when and where my junction and my crossroad was going to meet, and she wanted to make sure she was there when it did. And she was. And I met with someone named Bill. I spent one lousy night with him. I didn't know he was married at the time. I found out later. But Lita got very pissed off about that. I had to go get a restraining order on her because she split my eye open. So that was another experience. After that happened, something happened with Lita and Rob where they were at, and Lita got beaten up pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure Rob did it. I have no doubt he did it. I was in my apartment minding my own business, which often that's where I can be found. I'm pretty boring. For the most part, I really am. I'd rather read a book than be outside with people. She went to her mother because she didn't want Rob to get in trouble. And I mean, she was being in the hospital where Sue had to go to the hospital, nurse her back to health for several days. I don't know what, because I have no idea what happened to her. But what Lita decided, and Rob decided, and Rob's mother Beverly decided to tell Sue was that I went after Lita with an axe, which I've never owned an axe in my whole life, nor do I want to. But I was accused of this. And since Lita didn't press charges against me, and I don't see why she wouldn't if I really had done it, Sue decided to take matters into her own witchcraft hands and handle it just fine. So I got a call a few weeks later from Lita, and Sue was in the emergency room at Penrose Hospital, and she needed me to go up there because she couldn't do it because she was too busy fucking off doing God only knows what with the Sons of Silence. But but at any rate, I went ahead and went up there to the hospital, but I decided not to go alone. I took a friend, Linda, with me to the hospital because I didn't have a good feeling about it. I really didn't. And I knew it would be, really wrong of me not to try to help them because I don't think I had enough information at the time to understand that I should have been running the other way. But I did go, and Linda, she didn't make it across the threshold of the hospital room. She got into the door frame and she stayed petrified there. I had to go up to the bed and see if Sue was okay, and it didn't feel good at all. And the next thing that happened was Linda and I both together in unison witnessed the absolute devil come right the freak up out of Sue's mind, body, and soul in that hospital bed. And I mean, he was almost full-bodied, coming out at me, just terrifying, like he was going to kill me. He was reaching for my throat, and I was stepping back like, what the hell is this? I've never seen this before. Me and Linda just ran out of this hospital. And I didn't go and talk to Sue again after that for quite a while. And I think that was in 2009 or 10, somewhere in there. In 2016, I got a message from Bill that he was in town, and I knew he was still married. So I rejected him pretty harshly because he had rejected me pretty harshly too, because Rob and Lita told Bill that I was just a whore and codependent and would, never become anything in this life. After all, she did come at me with a roll of quarters, a ruby ring, unsuspected, came up at me from behind me. So, she's a fucking hero, right? And she did this at a birthday party in front of everybody. My daughter literally had to come and kidney kick her off of me because she wouldn't get off of me. She'd been partying for too long. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but don't go do that. Hey! Don't go do that and then decide to go beat the crap out of somebody. So she did get a domestic and a restraining order. And I didn't talk to her again for quite a while. And again, whenever these people hit me up, it's usually at the worst times in their lives. The next time I hear from Lita, she's getting out of prison after being in for about 5 years or whatever. It was 2013, and she got out of prison. And Sue contacted me because she wanted me to go find something in a hoarder's house, and she knew I could do it. So I didn't talk to them again for about another 6 months, but Lita kept coming back with her kids, with this, that. She wanted me to take care of her son, Swade. And so I did take him in, but him and his girlfriend were just at each other's throat. Me and Amanda were taking care of Ronald Dean Warren. He was an elderly gentleman who had just come into his parents' will. And we were at Squaw Valley Drive. And Lita just wouldn't stop coming over there. I mean, she was hanging on for dear life. She needed a place to stay. She needed this. She needed that. She was fresh from prison, and Sue wasn't doing anything for her because she had, gone to prison and proven herself to be a liar, that she wasn't Miss Sweet and Innocent out in the world doing nothing wrong at all. Because of what she went to prison for, she was in federal prison. So there's that. And she had been in a variety of trouble prior to that. She was in Texas in her youth and decided to impersonate a cop at a strip club. Not too smart, because you don't want to impersonate a cop to a cop in a strip club, and she did, and she got busted for that. So I've not had good experiences with them. Sue did not have to raise me. She didn't have to pay child support. She didn't have to do anything, to support me in any way, shape, or form, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. She did not support me at all. I had no idea what she was doing behind my back. I do know that she is a witch and she can coerce people into whatever she wants them to do. She's done it to me before. Sue, I think, does know that I am half human and half spirit. And I say half spirit because I'm literally from the 8th dimension. There are 9 dimensions, okay? I'm from the 8th one. I'm pretty sure she knew what was up with me, and she got a list of this and that and the other thing. I don't blame Sue for everything that went on here because I know after her husband had passed away, she was married to some man that was a Mason, and this Mason, he wanted to own her. He wanted to own every single thing about her. He wanted her spiritual gifts. He wanted her charm. He wanted her personality. He wanted, to own everything about her. And I think that he used a lot of black magic on her to do that and accomplish it. I think that we all sin, and our sins fall down heavily on the shoulders of our children. And I think that Sue did find ways to try to deal with her karma, but she made, a deal. And when you make a deal, you don't understand that deal that you make with the devil will affect everybody in your family. It can and it will. Because the devil just doesn't want just the person he makes a deal with. He definitely thinks bigger than that. He looks at that person, their children, their children's children. If they are an earth angel, and I believe that Sue was, and could still be, if she made the right choices. But I don't know about all of that. I do know that I cared about them. I tried to help them. But when I couldn't help them anymore and I was getting hurt because Sue was messing with memories, messing with dreams, messing with me, I knew I needed to get educated and I needed to figure this out, and I've been doing that ever since. I don't speak with Sue too much, ever. I think I seen her one time. I think that they were trying to scam me, or maybe they weren't. I don't know. But they're always trying to create a sad, depressing situation for me to deal with. And I don't want to be sad or depressed. I don't want to be oppressed. I don't want to be lied to, and I don't want to be game played by anyone. And I think most people feel that way. When you're an empath, you're going to attract naturally every narcissist on the block to yourself, and you're going to have to learn how to not react to that and not get upset or angry and just look at this like it's not personal. This is patterns and things that they've learned along the way, and they probably can't help it. I say a prayer for them, and I do pray for all my enemies. I really do. I didn't choose to be Sue's enemy, and I had no idea how she felt about me. I had no idea how the Father felt about me. But I know that I'm going to go ahead and choose myself and choose to love myself, forgive myself, and no matter what, I'm going to choose to keep it moving forward towards a better tomorrow than today. And I think that's the best thing all of us can do to get along in the world, where you have to live with dark and light energies, and you have to work with it because it's a part of the world we live in. If I can't get along with somebody, I will usually walk away and leave them alone. I don't want to, be around people that don't like me, genuinely don't like me. I don't really care to be around people anymore because a lot of times when I am, I'm picking up energy or I'm getting drained. So I'm become introverted, I guess you could say. I mean, I'm still willing to go to certain social events, but it's very rare that I will now, because I feel like I'm a bit overwhelmed by everything that's happened. I have to talk about another subject here because Spirit has guided me to tell my truth, and He wants me to tell my whole truth. He wants you all to understand that when somebody comes from a different dimension, magic is going to affect them differently than it does a human. Okay? It really is. People that come from a different dimension, they are contractually, by the law of heaven and by the universal law, they are contracted to obey universal law. Humans are not contracted to do that, therefore they don't understand it. And I do try to teach that when and where I can, because it's important for everyone to know about universal law. It pretty much trumps all laws everywhere, because universal law is God's law, and His word is the final word in every situation. It is. And no one can trump it. And the devil knows that. And so do all his minions. When people make choices to sign off on contracts with demons and devils, that's a choice that you make. There will be consequences that come with that, no matter who you are. I've seen archangels fall and sign on with the devil. I have. And they are not pleasant, because if you look at them the wrong way, you could end up in hell for an eternity. Once an earth angel goes dark, it's a very dark situation for everyone involved. I'm not dark. I'm a healer. I tried to curse my enemies in early 2015. And I had to get help from Mother Mary and Father God to get them off, because a healer should never cast a curse. And you should never get pissed off so much at anyone that you want to cast a curse on them. You shouldn't. So my first lesson in my spirituality was to get my emotions and my temper under control. Otherwise they would control me, and it would never benefit me. And once I got those things under control, it was much easier to sit down with myself and meditate and view the truth about myself. I had to look at myself and all the mistakes I've made in this, all the sins I've committed. I've had to look at myself, and I've had to forgive myself, let go of the things that no longer serve the highest good in me, and open myself up to receive the things that do serve the highest good of me. Because I'm someone that understands what forever is. It never ever ends. And you're either going to end it in one place or the other. There is no in between. And at any given time in your life, while you're alive, you always have an opportunity to speak with God. Because He's the only one that I found that could get me out of this, and I've been in this for a very long time. The other thing He wanted me to mention about me being half spirit and half human is that things work differently for me when I'm on the other side. And they certainly do work differently for me here. As far as men go, clearly most of the men I've dated have been involved in witchcraft. Clearly. And I didn't know it. These men don't introduce themselves and tell me that. They date me, they tell me nothing, and they do whatever they want to do. There's no real way to be sure about how much esoteric knowledge someone has. So you should be very careful about everyone that you date, because you never know if they made a deal with the devil, if they accidentally caught in some strip club somewhere a nasty incubus or succubi. A lot of demons hang out in bars. They do. And they'll latch on to anybody who's weak enough in their mind that they can latch on to. Okay, when we get drunk, it's easier for the dark spirits to latch onto you, because when you're so drunk that you're passed out, you're just like a revolving door. You're pretty wide open for that. And that is how a lot of people catch bad attitudes and narcissism, is by catching a demon when they're drunk or way too screwed up. You got to keep your wits about you. You do have to keep your protection up. You really do. I keep my protections up through prayers. I really do. I read my Bible twice a day. I pray to God. I talk to God all day. And that's kept me alive, and it's kept me moving forward. In dating those kind of men, I was able to speak with my twin flame through telepathy, so I didn't have to go out. And I enjoyed that part of our relationship. The men that I dated, I didn't tell them anything about myself. They didn't know all my secrets, but apparently they were, researching me. They were finding information out about me. And these men, these witch men, they just wanted to treat me like crap, because as long as they could keep me in a low enough vibrational space and place in my mind, then their spells would work and they could get away with whatever they were getting away with. Now, I have been told not to tell that, because, the whole world doesn't need to know all my business. I feel like they already do, but whatever. I have 2 seasons per year. I do. And if there's no man around me, you can rest assured I am a normal human woman when it comes to that. I don't want to be with a strange man catching a strange demon or disease. I don't like strange men at all after what I've been through. It was a lot of trauma and drama and arguments and bullshit with the men I dated in this lifetime. I had no idea that somebody could espouse you on the other side and affect you right here in 3D in your real life, but I found out that is the case. So I'm doing my best to clear all these cycles with these male witches and men who want nothing but to keep me down. These men come twice a year to watch me. But, I'm a human, so I did fantasize about my twin flame during that time, and I'm sure, you can guess at the rest. But in my mind and in my space, I'm in my own room, and no one should be here watching me, whether it's through psychic watching me, what is that called? Remote viewing, okay? Cameras, whatever the case may be in this situation. Nobody should be in my room watching me do anything. Nobody belongs in my room. You don't. And to come and watch me do that, well, it sounds like you have a problem over there. I have an issue that I have to deal with because I'm not from here. Okay? You have an issue that you have to deal with because you're watching me do this. And you won't stop. And now you've got the whole world watching, too. So, I don't know these men that are doing this. I don't think I do. And if I do, I don't want to know you. I don't. Like, there was only supposed to be one person here, and that was it. I had no idea who I was talking to in telepathy, because once you get used to an energy, you don't truly question it anymore, unless it's like the devil's energy. That's questioned constantly by me. But let's say I had a neighbor, and I have a friend, and I have a boyfriend, and all 3 of them are communicating with me telepathy. I'm not going to know any differences in their voice or anything like that. I cannot see these people that I'm having telepathy with. So there's that. When people are speaking to me during that time, there shouldn't be any more than the person I'm thinking about. At least that's what I used to think. I don't anymore. Now I'm frustrated, and I have, yet another thing that I'm going to have to try to figure out. I've been figuring this out on my own. I've literally been investigating my own case. And I've determined that I've had a lot of fucked up relationships in my lifetime, and I'd like to change that. My family is being hurt because of the craft. I mean, it is affecting all of us. It's affecting my daughter. It's affecting my grandkids. It is. And it's something that should just, by now, have been over a long time ago. I'm sorry for anybody that I've hurt or offended, but I really have been in my spiritual closet, so to speak, for like 8 years. I haven't bothered anybody. Vince was not a boyfriend or a husband. He was a neighbor. Okay? And he did the wrong things with his 33-degree Mason. He definitely didn't use it for the highest good. He did do a lot of mind magic on me. I suffered a lot of illusions. And he played a lot of games. So did his friend. Like, I don't want to play games with people. I'm telling the truth because I know through the many experiences that I've had, people need to know the truth just to be having the ability to navigate your own life in your own mind, in your own soul. Like, it's not easy to do life as it is, but if you've got the devil's curse on you and the Black Widow's curse and you've got a bunch of fucking death spells coming at you, whatever, you're not going to be able to navigate through life easily. You got to get rid of all the bullshit and clean up the inside so the outside can look better. But the inside has to shine first. And that's what I'm looking at right now, and I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with my truth. This is not a story. These are my truths, and I have a lot of them because apparently there was a lot of people involved in this, and I'm well aware of it. I don't have hate for any of my enemies. I pray for them on a regular basis, and I am doing the best that I can do with myself right now, and I'm hoping that others will learn to find the peace within yourself, because once you do that, other stuff that used to bother you will stop bothering you. I did have a problem with my temper, and many people, I'm sure, have said this, but I got it under control, and I kept it under control, and I won't give up my peace for anyone, because it's more precious to me. It's as precious to me as my family is. My children, my grandchildren, my love. Like, my peace is very precious to me, and so is my privacy. Because I do understand what it's like to not have your privacy given to you when you think it is. I know what that's like. And I feel like every human being in their bedroom and bathroom, in their home, and in their own home, should be allowed to their privacy. But if you're in your home, behind closed doors, and you're firing off death spells at people, it's energy that can be tracked by those that are above us. It is. I know energy tracers, and they can track your energy down, right down to wherever the spell was fired off from. So there is that. I think I talked about everything that I really didn't want to, but I did. And I hope this answers some questions. And to those of you that are, shouting me out and supporting me in that way, I want you to know that I'm very grateful and thankful for the support that I get. I really am. Many blessings to you.